Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having us. I appreciate the time from all the delegates. What we want to do is give you a quick overview of Catalogic software, but also what we're doing around copy data management. We prepared a couple sections for you. We broke up into 4 sections. One, so I'm Ed Walsh, I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm just going to give you basically an overview of what we have as far as products, company, what the problem definition around copy data management is, and our solution around it, and a little bit how we're competitively differentiating ourselves from a strategy perspective. We're going to go through a live demo because, let's say, seeing is believing. So we're going to go through a half-an-hour demo to go through exactly what we're doing, and Prashant's going to lead that for us. We're going to take a step backwards and talk a little bit about architecture and roadmap so you get a feeling for what we're doing as far as how we're doing it, but more importantly, what we're going forward and how we can extend. The platform's very extensible. And then we're going to wrap it up with some use cases, just to make sure we're bringing it home. This is how we see enterprises deploying our technology today. So with that, I'm going to go into our copy data management. I'm going to use this as a company introduction, but also into copy data management in general. And we talk about managing the full lifecycle of copy data management, and we talk about manage, orchestrate, and analyze the copy data across your enterprise and into the cloud. But take a second back, as far as a company, we've been shipping Catalogic software for over 18 years. And we have 2 products, a product called DPX. It's a heterogeneous data protection product. If you think of it as an Avamar, efficiency for a backup, but also with a bootable backend. There's no doing restores, you do a simple mount to get to any point in the environment. So this first copy data management solution. Our next platform that we're going to talk about just today, in fact, I'm only going to talk about what's GA in the product, but we're just going to talk about our copy data management platform, which is ECX, purposely built for copy data management. We have 24 issued patents, so we're deep in technology. We're out of New Jersey. We're about 1,000 clients. So copy data management, when we talk to clients about the challenges, we talk about data growth. Sometimes it's a little latent pain and we have to educate a little bit about what's the real challenge around the copies of this production data you have in an environment, how much it's consuming. Then we talk about manageability, how you get a handle on this copy data sprawl, and to both have visibility but also leverage of these copies. And then we definitely get into the business agility. You have copies of data in your environment, copies of production data for good reasons. Resiliency, backup, DR, test dev, analytics, it goes on and on and on. This is part of the problem. So we need to make sure we're meeting all those requirements from a resiliency standpoint, but also you get more agility if you use copy data management software. So maybe you take a step back for the problem. So the copy data management, you're not going to see copy data management as a line on your budget in the infrastructure at this point. So what's the challenge we're going after? I like to use some data from IDC, which I think is pretty good. They did a study last year in the enterprise. This is not in the private cloud, not in the public cloud, but in the private clouds. In the enterprise, they're seeing production data growing linearly, which year over year, 35% is hard to keep up with, but it's a linear growth. But what they found is, and they documented it, is basically it's a $44 billion problem of this geometric growth of the copies of the production data. And let's just make sure I'm clear with that. This is taking your production data, yes, you mirror it for resiliency, but you do backups, you do disk-based backups, you replicate that backup, you do test dev, you do analytics, you do different resiliency copies, or DBAs are creating copies. But what's happening is for every use you have for your data, you're told to make a copy, you keep it for a long time, and it's ended up being a lot of cost. In fact, IDC identified it as a $44 billion overspend by the enterprise, and consuming about 60% of the disk capacity. And when I do this with the enterprise clients, they all look at me and they kind of, a little smile, and they say, yeah, that's about right when I think about it. But it wasn't what they came into the meeting about. And this is creating a lot of the cost as far as both software, but also hardware in the environment. But the other thing that's really interesting is most of these copies sit completely idle, by definition, or by design. So what copy data management does is simply leverages the copies you have, things like what you do with snapshots. 10 years ago when we started this, right, you make copies and you make copies of copies. But in the meantime, you're doing application consistent snapshots in every single storage platform that you deploy out there. What we're using is using those application consistent snapshots you have local and remote to actually get these other use cases. So you actually have less physical copies, but what you're able to get is better data access and resiliency. We use your application consistent snapshots for things like test dev, analytics, and DR. And I'll go through the use cases. A good use case on this would be, let's say, a normal Oracle environment, any mission critical environment. You have a local disk copy that you're running production on. Sometimes you have a local resiliency copy of that same data, and you almost always have a DR copy of that data. The question is, what do you do with a second and third copy of your data? Nothing. Literally nothing. You don't dare touch it. You don't know what the hell it is. It's some Orca instance, but we give you visibility of what's there, also understanding the correlation with location, but also application, and allow you to leverage it through orchestration automation. And that's where copy data management simultaneously allows you to reduce the number of physical copies, so you save OpEx and CapEx, but also you're able to do things much more in a more agile environment. So if I was going to do one page, so Catalogic software, copy data management in one slide, this would be it. We take your storage. In this case, I'm going to focus on only what we have in production. So we're going to talk about the architecture and how we're going to go across building a provider model, and it's short term in the next couple quarters. You're going to see different hypervisors and different storage platforms. But right now, what's in GA is our NetApp. We have 3 different NetApp providers supporting 3 different NetApp platforms and VMware. So all the use cases I'm going to talk about are those in context, but you'll see this expand. But the key thing is we take your storage. We're not asking you to move the storage. We're not asking you to do anything, but we can take your storage, which you already have and you bought for good reason. In this particular case, non-disruptive operations, proven efficiency, seamless scalability. Those are what I'll say is NetApp's value props as far as marketing. But if you talk to clients, the reason they picked this or any other primary storage platform, they picked it for the performance and resiliency characteristics. Snapshotting and replication become one of the key considerations of why you pick storage. So you picked it for good reason. We're going to keep it there. What we simply do is put on top of your storage our copy data management platform. We make it easy to adopt, so it's a software-only environment. You download a virtual machine. It's based upon Docker, so we can scale out in place, but it's a virtual machine download. Agentless deployment. You simply one-time register your storage and your vCenter in this case, or your hypervisor, and after that we catalog your environment and we can do all the use cases I'm about to talk about. But there's no agents, we're not in line, and we're not changing what you do in your storage. And then what we're able to do is give you the ability to manage, orchestrate, and analyze all that copy data you already have in your environment and give you a more operational efficient way to deploy it. The use cases you get, we use the term one-on-one is for, right? So if we take your storage, you bought for good reason, we simply add a very non-intrusive software. Downloadable VM, no agents, not in line. And what you get is these 4 unique use cases. And we put them in 4 buckets. One is copy data leverage. And that's the concept of actually using your application consistent snapshots to fulfill these other requirements for storage you have. So we do it not only orchestrating, automating the use of the snapshots, local, remote, and we have the concept of location, which you'll see, but we're actually also orchestrating the network and the virtual environment. So in a particular environment, for test dev, we'll bring up the particular VMs you have in a particular order, bring them up in a fenced network environment with the associated storage, and you're allowed to use that for test dev. And you have a couple of solutions for that. You can either promote to production after you use it, you can tear it back down and repopulate those mount points on a regular basis, or you can actually put it in a clone and have it long-term retention and use it as a separate environment.
You see this as a replacement for SRM?
Well, so SRM would be one. So the 4th use case is copy data analytics. So on one thing, we do give you visibility across what you have. And we go after the storage and hypervisor API, so we're not walking the file system. But what we do is give you a detailed catalog. Because we're working across storage, we're not doing it on our own appliance. So we do have the catalog, and now you can get reports, you can search, and I'll show you that. We use embedded Lucene search, but we can also do a lot of different correlations, like for instance, what's your recover points in your environment now. Download agentlessly, in 15 minutes I'll tell you per VM, what's your recover points that you have currently, locally, how many recover points, what's your last good one, and remotely. Would it be an example, but that would be SR, when you say SRM, can I give you visibility of what you have? Basic of this technology is to catalog the environment, and then we can give you a lot of insight. But that's just one of the use cases.
But the catalog depth ends at the VM, right?
So we do it both on VM and you can correlate. So it's a VM level, but also the storage level. We go down to, there's 2 ways to do this cataloging. So you do at a high level, which is literally 15 minutes, all by public APIs between this vCenter and NetApp environment. You can set it overnight to do basically what we say a deep catalog, and you can pick which ones you do file level metadata cataloging.
Okay, within the VMDK?
Within the files, yep.
Okay,
so
cool.
Basically SIFs and NFS would be a good use case for that.
So within like the data protection model, leveraging snap data, this
Yep.
doesn't have any CDP type functionality since it's based upon how often you're taking snaps. So which truly is not a CDP. It's the fastest you can take snaps in a NetApp environment would be like per minute, which no one would ever activate because that's a special option anyway. Yep. So you're pretty much limited to whatever your snap schedules are as far as your data recovery schedules, essentially.
So here's the strength and the strength of a model. We're using your storage. So how often can you snap your storage? I didn't pick your storage, you pick your storage. In this case it's NetApp, but once we do EMC IBM,
sure.
You tell me what your platform's able to do. And then I'll help you catalog it, give you visibility and leverage that. But I'm not doing a snapshot. By the way, this is good news to the enterprise. Do you need another snapshot engine? Do you need another RAID stack? Do you want to do another data migration? No, right? But so the only reason I'm saying that is if you think about any of these questions, well, can you do snapshot? Can you do application consistent snapshot? Like the good thing about application is we do the VM, like current GA product. You do the VM snap, you do the storage snap, you free up the VMware snap very quickly, right? So that's best practice. We orchestrate that very simple environment. As you add more things, we'll do it, but we're not doing anything under the covers, black box. In fact, when you see the workflows, you'll see us calling public APIs and making it very clear so that your call center guys can actually manage and monitor this. Does that answer? It was just a way for me to tell you.
Yeah.
Any other questions like, well, how do you do snapshots? How do you do replication? You know, we're not in line. Literally, not a data goes through us. We're going after the public APIs to orchestrate this. So literally no performance degradation in flash environments. In fact, we're not in line. We're also availability. The way you do backup doesn't change. Nothing changes in the environment. What we're doing is to give you an additive product on top. Make sense?
You see this as a go ahead. You see this as a replacement for WFA, for on-command WFA?
Okay, so each of the vendors that we're going to work across have these different tool sets. So WFA, workflow, automation, right? So they have a tool set. It's kind of it's a nice GUI to do a couple, what I'll say is routine tasks, set up volumes, etc. What they don't do is the orchestration. So as I go through the technology, you'll see there's always a lot of good tool sets. In fact, we use a lot of the NetApp tool sets to set up the environment. And then what we'll do is ongoing set up the overall policies for SLAs and then manage those through the lifecycle. So they're complementary. We'll also show you how you set snapshots with our environment, which is the base, and you can do that. And WFA can set up individual snapshots. Ours is more, once you see the orchestration automation, it's very different than a WFA. So it's complementary. It's, that's one-off tasks you want to do with WFA, you can also do.
And we also manage the copies of block devices, like for example, Oracle,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. And you also manage the chain of Oracle seed and all the stuff to manage.
Yep. And also you'll see in this environment, again, it's in this particular environment, we could do raw physical boxes, which we do the LUN orchestration, but we can also do the VMware and the coordinated. We'll also show you some roadmap things in the architecture where we're actually doing things like the rack and, because there's some, like rack would be a good example of Oracle where you need to make sure you're getting across the environment and do the logs the right way. That is a future, we'll show you what we're doing. But we have a history and lineage of doing that in backup, so it's just a roadmap issue for us that you'll see in the next, physical year. So the use case is copy data leverage is leveraging the application consistent copies you already have to do things like better test dev. We can also do daily DR, where actually bring up your environment in a particular order all the way up. And you can test it, and you can, in one button, promote production, which I'll talk about how we do that, or you can tear it back down. You can automate that every single day. Analytics, test dev, DevOps, automation, fence it, use it, promote it, fence it, use it, promote it, and now you got DevOps automation on your storage you already bought. Give the power to the infrastructure person. Next generation data protection is, the reason we break this out a little bit different is, people are having a tough time. So I was the CEO of a company called Avamar, right? So 10 years ago, we kind of changed the way you do backup, and we talked about data dedupe, the first company to talk about that, right? But the key thing is, that was when data growth was here. We're a decade later. People can't keep up with it. People are looking at next way they're going to do data protection. And we see using application consistent snapshot, not ours that we're going to ship you or our filter drivers, the ones you already have in production, you already doing local remote, and we're going to show you how to use that. And what is it missing to meet next generation data protection? You need compliance, you need basically, just like backup recovery, what did not work last night, an exception-based report, so you can fix it. So you don't have the, when a problem happens in enterprise, people go, here's a volume or system failed or a file. The first thing they say is, I hope to God I have a snapshot. Well, because you don't know. It's a needle in the haystack. We give a way to actually know that you actually do have a snapshot, and this is additive. It's exception-based reporting. Again, things that your call center can do. But then on top of that, we do the automation. So imagine doing next generation DR that you're actually doing every single day. You're doing DR, things you just can't possibly do with your current backup and recovery environment. The other thing is tape's not dead. Tape's just an operational backup recovery platform. We use it for archive. Let's do it in the tertiary copy. Let's give you snap vaults, and you basically can go off and do a weekly, monthly archive, and that's what it's good for. We're doing operational recoveries. And we do typically run in parallel before you get rid of anything in environment. Killer app for hybrid cloud. This is actually coined by SoftLayer, but why do people go to hybrid clouds in the enterprise? The reason it's kind of hard is you have a private cloud, which is secure. The one thing that's hard to move is data. You put data in the public cloud to leverage it. What are you trying to leverage it for? Better savings, more secure? No, it's to get the compute. You want to spin up, the mystical use case of spinning up 1,000 Hadoop nodes and spinning them back down. We see more spinning up 30 Linux boxes as a test dev and giving them to guys overseas. We also see ad hoc test dev. Let's give these guys these things, spin up these environments and spin them back down. We do see DR. And it's a reason for people to put their storage in the hybrid cloud. It's also good for the MSPs to be able to bring people in and charge them for the bursting of compute. You don't burst storage, you burst compute. And again, we see that without the copy data management, the same use case above allows you to get the leverage of hybrid clouds. And we do it on the storage. How do we get data over there? In this particular case, we use Cloud ONTAP. We put it over in Amazon or SoftLayer, and you're able to use it. And then we talked about a little bit copy data analytics. Once you have a catalog, which is how we go after it, just imagine what you can do. Reports, ad hoc reporting, you can deep dive final analytics. You can also do searching, which we'll show you some examples in the demo. And then we see this across the use case, so I'll be quick, but because we're in a NetApp environment, we see it in Cluster ONTAP as they do these file migrations. One, visibility of the old box 7 mode and Cluster ONTAP. But one thing we found in our early access program was this management by exception. We'll talk about rolling out snapshots, and you hope you have a snapshot. We have a way of, if you set up the snapshots using our product, we can actually give you exception-based reporting and dashboards so your call center can make sure everything's up and running in a more operational, efficient way. It's not always going to the storage guys and see what's going on, or not knowing if you have it. So the key thing is this exception by management by exception seemed to come up, skyrocketing up as far as the use case, just to deploy it across any time you're rolling out snap mirrors and snap vaults. We do see it in FlexPod, which makes a lot of sense, right? You're looking at operational efficiency. A lot of people say, well, with FlexPod, with our software, you get basically an activity appliance. You get all these use cases, which aren't available without our software product, but also you get the operational efficiency of leveraging these environments. Flash, it may or may not be intuitive, but to differentiate against environments like Pure and others, these guys are using our software to say, listen, our Flash environment has the performance of Flash, of course, but now you can use it for multiple use cases. So we used to talk about dedupe ratios, but imagine test dev. What they're finding, people give test dev environments to only sections of databases to people, or they can't give whole databases to people. They're giving to 30 different developers a whole database environment to go after it. So they're using the same bit of disk for a lot more use cases and get a lot more efficiency. It's a great use case for Flash, and it's a differentiator for NetApp into these environments. And I give you the example of the Oracle, local copy, local resiliency, remote. What do you do with second, third copy? Nothing. Well, with Flash, that's kind of expensive. I'll show you what to do with it. Analytics, if they're mission critical in Flash, analytics plays, test dev plays, DR plays, and now we can do that in Flash just as effectively as storage. Now with storage, spinning in media, we're also good because we also have the concept of knowing what's production, knowing what's tertiary, creating a clone so we can do it with spinning disk, but Flash just becomes a natural way to have consolidation. And then infrastructure optimization, know what you have. I gave you a couple examples. 15 minutes, download, 15 minutes, I can tell you recover points per VM, local, how many recover points you have, and also what's your latest good one. And you can do SLAs on that, and remote. We see them all the time underprotected, they don't have it remote, or they only have 8 locally and nothing in the last day, or we'll find someone with 86 copies of a particular database, because the DBA is creating it, but no recover points in the last 24 hours. And you can see this very quickly in an agentless environment, which is powerful on your existing environment. So quick time to value. As far as the flow, basically you're going to see this in demo. So I'm going to do it kind of quick because you'll see this in demonstration. But from a one start screen, you'll see us ability to set up the environment. Again, up and running about 15 minutes. I can tell you how we manage and actually deploy copy data across the environment, how we orchestrate that's a reuse of these, and how to analyze the environment. And quickly, I'd say, download a virtual machine, register your components, storage and hypervisor, and we catalog your environment. You do it once. You can also set a file level catalog that's scheduled typically overnight that goes through and actually gets after all the file level metadata. We're not walking the file system, we're using APIs available from the storage and hypervisor level. But we can do this very quickly. Then we go into copy data manage, and why do you want to do this? Well, we find consistently I hope I have a snapshot problem. or inconsistency, how things are rolled out? How do you drive operational efficiency when you're doing snapshots? How do you let the call center do some of the management of these things? So what we do is basically we give you a simple process, and you'll see in the demo, we're simply point and clicking and setting up very complex multi-site SnapMirror, SnapVault environments. If you set it up with us, it's easier. You can be more consistent as you go across environments. But this management by exception, the ability to have the call center have literally troubleshooting on a dashboard, what went wrong, and troubleshooting it to see if it's a VMware or if it's storage, get the right team involved, not always going back to the storage team, but also managed by exception. Not the guys in New York will call it, stop giving me the haystack, give me the needle so I can actually fix it. And we'll show you exactly what broken SLAs and actually what volumes to go fix. Things are just missing as you deploy, and if you have 50 or 1,500 snapshots and snap vaults in the environment, this makes it just a lot easier to manage it. And that's one of the benefits. That's one thing we came out from our early access program as being what people love. We weren't anticipating as much, positive feedback on that feature set. That just really comes from we're an automated environment and we have a catalog. Next is really the leveraging data copies for multiple use cases. You have these copies just sitting there. We're going to show you how to use them and use them safely, give you visibility of these copies, the location, the lineage of these environments, right? So it's how to use the data copies, and then also we have to meet all these business requirements for test dev, backup recovery, DR. You still need to fulfill those, but you can use it to be actually a better value. You do the savings of not having the separate environment, but you also get better agility. I can do better test dev, DevOps. I can do better DR. I can do better backup recovery. And what we do there is basically we leverage your application consistent snapshot. We catalog it, and then from the catalog you'll see a point and click environment that we actually go through. We orchestrate not just the storage runs, but up to the network and the hypervisor to bring up these fence environments. Almost every use case is the same. You bring up a fence environment, you can promote to production, you can test it and tear it down, or you can bring it into its own clone environment and use it. But this is the process at which you can actually leverage your environment. Again, and we're not changing anything how you deploy your storage in your environment. And this is all done agentlessly. I talked about a couple things, and you'll see this in the demo, but underlying the technology is once we have a catalog of what you have, we know it's possible. You can do a couple things, and you can do this all in these automated workflows, but one will be instant access. Just give me the file, let me mount it. Let me get the single file. Yeah, very simple, kind of how you use snapshots today, but we automate that. Just let me get after the data. But the other one is actually doing instant virtualization, where we actually bring up the VM envelope or VApp envelope. Good example of that would be DR. Let's bring up these 18 systems in a particular order. Let's bring them up pre-configured, separated network, and that would be instant virtualization. And we take care of all that complexity, and it comes up exactly how you do it with command line, just with a lot less effort, and you can automate every single day.
So do you guys do the workflow automation there, so I can define the dependencies and make sure that my Active Directory comes up before my Exchange?
Exactly. In fact, we'll show you that in the demo where you can order them, and then the key thing is you test it every single day if it works. And guess what? Okay, what went wrong? Well, you can see exactly where it stalled, like say DNS server before Exchange, an obvious one, right? We'll show you how you can order exactly those.
So to Ray's point from earlier, this is very similar to SRM in some ways, and that's in a positive way, though. I mean, it's to an extent where you're able to instantiate off a testable operational environment, but I'm not so sure how much, and you'll probably go into it later, is how well it'll instantiate in the event of an actual failure where you need to recover and act against that data.
Well, okay, so in this, so people use this for their actual DR. We're testing every single day. I guess the question is, so yeah, people use it for their actual DR.
Okay.
Will you talk about,
yeah.
Will that be shown in the demo, how that's used for that?
Yeah, let's just focus on that use case.
Okay, because the ability to test, because if you don't have the ability to test DR, the way you test DR is you force a failover, and nobody wants to do that. You want to be able to test DR without impacting production. It looks like you guys can provide that function. Yeah, because what we're doing is we're taking the tertiary application consistent snapshot on the remote side that's an hour delayed, and we're basically saying, okay, whatever, is that crash consistent, or is it how did you set it up in your production environment? Now let me orchestrate it. We're all doing public APIs, so you can actually see what we're doing. It's not a black box. It's allowing you to do what you already do much more efficiently, but you can do it daily. Okay. The next thing is you can bring it up in a test environment, which if you think of all the use cases, test dev, DR, analytics, they're all the same. You can bring up a test environment, which is a fence network, allow you to operate on it, give it access to developers or people to test it. Then you can either tear it back down,
You can also promote it to production, rapid restore to production, or you can put it in a clone state, which a clone state is for a longer term, right? So you don't want to work in a writable snapshot. Let's say you got to do a test dev and it's turning into a project. You want to put it on its own storage, and we do that in the background where we do a vMotion in the background, so you actually set up a clone. But you can also set workflow that goes right to clones, right? You can do right to production. But what we see in every single case is you have ability to come up in a fence network, and then you have options what to do. Restore to production, and it immediately is available, and then we're moving the storage in the background, or you can do it in the clone state, et cetera. And these are the ways we're going after the storage. Again, leveraging the storage and the virtual environments you guys bought for good reason.
So you use storage vMotion rather than clone?
Well, we use both, right? So, for instance, in this particular environment, let's say you want to set up an environment test, and then all of a sudden that test dev test all of a sudden is into a project. You want to make it a clone. We basically use underlying orchestration of the underlying storage to create another copy, a clone, so it's actually its own storage, but then we'll allow it to be immediately available to you, but in the background we're vMotioning it. So it's a combination. Again, that's a good example of orchestration of the two technologies are powerful if you use them together. Just the other one is doing application consistent snapshot. VMware application consistent snapshot, VSS, and storage. Together, they're actually a good, way to orchestrate and get the performance you need. So those are the ways we go after it. And then, of course, report and analyzing. Understand what your data is. People are flying blind. Who's consuming all this storage? What's my recover points? Am I even meeting my SLAs from a local or remote? That visibility, insight, and also the ability to get these things to the call center to be able to use it is powerful. So I'm going to go quickly, but we're going to show you how to do searching. We're going to show you how to do this reporting. This is a byproduct. So when I hear SRM, we're not an SRM firm, but I got all the data. I'll show you 10 ways to Sunday to get after the data. Now, the catalog allows us to do all the actionable things we're talking about. No agents, no appliances, but we're doing all this orchestration. It's because the catalog understands what we have, and the providers understand the rules engines we have per platform.
Well, and the one other thing is, SRM as it relates is exclusively driven around VMware. You can only protect with that. But if this lets you protect data that may not be virtualized because it's sitting on the SAN, you're able to protect and act against that essentially?
And I apologize. Now, you're saying SRM, I was thinking storage resource management. You're talking about VMware SRM.
Yes, that's
great analogy. In fact, what we do is you can do it just VMware. They do a great job. You can see this across different environments, and you can use it for test dev and other things. Mm-hmm. But it's actually a good analogy.
Yeah. And that's
now I get the SRM thing. So
and that's where we were.
Yeah, we have to be careful with SRM nowadays because it means two very different things.
Sometimes three.
So that's a good analogy.
Yes.
And then I'm going to try to bring it home because I'm a little over. But basically, operational efficient rolling out this environment is showing you have all these different workflows. So you're not going to do DR for the whole thing. Now you have the ability to do DR for that department, that application, and test it and have them come up and running. Mm-hmm. And the key thing is you have the workflows. Some are scheduled daily, some are ad hoc. They only want the data so often, but click, 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 you're up and running. In fact, on our website, Hendrix Medical has a great use case, which we weren't anticipating. He goes, vendors call me for an environment so they can put some patches on it. Of course, on the phone with me, I go click, 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 and they're up and running. They think I'm a god because I was able to do it so quickly, but to be honest, I'm on to my day job now. So, but those would be chances of, never scheduled, but basically ad hoc. But the key thing is you can go in and look at each and every one of these, and your call center guys can find out what went wrong and fix it or get the right people involved. The call center resources are now leverageable, where before it was a mystery of who's going to do the storage. And then we do have costs. So we did hard dollar costs. So everyone likes hard dollars costs. We'll show us OpEx savings on soft dollars. This is a study by Wikibon showing about over 3 years, about 39% savings just by not overcopying data. And then we also see the same environment on soft dollars, and that's on analytic and test dev. And I give one thing that seems to be consistent. Enterprises doing test dev, they're doing QA of test dev or QA of their software overseas. They use the term an 8-hour shift, and they were losing half their 8-hour shift consistently because they have to set up the environment and they have to bring the environment back, where they basically they basically lost a whole bunch of their productivity and they almost gained that entire stuff back. That's where a lot of the savings was, just on the automation.
So Ed, how's the product price? Is that on a per gigabyte basis or per installation, or? Yeah,
so we try to make it very simple. And it is disruptive. Basically, it's per array controller, no capacity.
Controller.
Per controller, and we're basically $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 per controller, small, medium, large.
How many copies 2 controllers for each one of the filers?
Yeah, so if you have a file, let's say in a CDOC environment, they're all redundant, so you have to buy, one license per controller, but $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 perpetual license ends up being a fraction, literally low single digits of an overall transaction, but you get a lot of benefits.
So you say for 2 controllers, it's two licenses or one?
Yeah, that makes sense. So we try to keep it simple, and also align with the OEMs. That's how NetApp charges, so that's what we're doing. Okay, and also we've seen the same thing with IBM and others. They're looking to do it the same way. Just to kind of bring it home, and then we're going to go through the demo because I think you're going to like the demo.
I probably missed something. So you have all this orchestration kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I give for granted that you have any kind of role-based management to give any one of your
Yep. So when we go through the architecture, we have a rules base in now, which is basic. It's basically now made for private clouds. As we're getting pushed, so SoftLayers and others, you'll see rules base and as a roadmap, but it's very short-term roadmap. So what a lot of the MSPs are looking for, you'll have in May, but we can talk. And also rules, RBAC is a lot of things to a lot of people. So we have some slides that we can talk about specifically what we're talking RBAC, but the target is for MSPs in a hybrid cloud, which has to be pretty granular level of architecture.
So, go ahead.
Do you support more than just NetApp storage? I mean, right now NetApp storage and VMware was pretty prominent. Is there anything?
Good thing. So our tenets of the overall architecture where we're differentiating, I'm going to get to it right now, so you're a perfect straight person, right?
One quick question on the previous slide. It says the 36%, you can save 36% of your total cost. The question I'm wondering then is, can you save a percentage on your initial acquisition? Could this be used as then kind of driving that initial part? Albeit it'll eat up that a little bit.
So good thing. So the reason we also break hard dollars away from soft dollars is everyone means different thing, but they're about the same percentage, 39 and 30%, which is a rather large chunk of savings. Initially, because we're a downloadable VM, you can get time to value really quickly. I mean, what is your recover point per VM in your environment? No offense, no one knows. I can show it to you real quickly. Where you're underprotected, overprotected. Files. Who's the biggest, abuser of what you have files? Good example, PayPal, or eBay. They're trying to split up the two things. They don't even know everything's intermixed. How do you actually break them together? Those are all things that you get instant. You get those things very quickly. So we didn't have a day one. It would be visibility. Can you see waste, or can you see where you're exposed? We find as many underprotected as we find overprotected. And normally it's like a DBA is kicking off a bunch of stuff, right? Or someone's just nervous and they're doing all these copies, or they're copies and no one expired them because you don't have a recover point in days, right? Does that make sense? So
that makes
some savings, but yeah, this is based on the long-term copy data. And maybe we'll do a different study of that. So as far as maybe, and this kind of brings home the presentation, but also kind of gives us our philosophy. We have a couple key tenets of what we're looking at this solution set. One is it needs to be easy to use. Rip and replace, agents, appliances, these are all, in my opinion, tough, right? So it's a downloadable VM, no agents. Register once your environment, and we can do all the use cases I just talked about. Also, it's scalable and sensible, so it's Docker-based, so we can scale out in place, which is also very interesting as far as, so start small, but how big can we go? Well, I named some customers, but you'll see us go pretty wide pretty quick, because scalability is critical in this, especially as you go hybrid cloud. And we're not talking thousands of backup jobs you got to catalog. We're talking literally hundreds of millions, and we have guys doing tens of billions of objects.
Sorry, I don't get this Docker-based. So the Docker containers are inside the virtual machine, or you?
What we're going to do is we have actually a slide on it, because I think you'll see, if you're familiar with Docker, it's a little bit magical if you think about it. It's the days of VMware. So in the back end of this, how do we keep track of tens of billions of objects? Well, we use, MongoDB would be a good way. Shards, easy to put in the cloud, right? So guess what? If you put it in the right container model, you can now shard that out in Docker, and it's simple, it's easy. You can do the same thing if you're going to index a bunch of files. You can bring out the front ends. The key thing is because everything's REST API, you can go after one GUI and you see everything as if it's one environment, even though it might be 15 or 16 different VMs underneath. And that's the power of Docker, to be honest. I'll give them full kudos, but our software is built to do this. So you see MongoDB, and we're going to go through the architecture. So my intent on this architecture slide, and he'll actually go through the components. But basically, we also have, it has to be simple, has to be scalable, has to be the cloud, because we're talking tens of billions. This is not thousands of objects even in small environments. It has to be something that goes on storage, but it has to go on your storage and across multiple storage platforms. And then extensible, we talked about, we also are able to add, because of the JSON architecture, it's easy to do these providers and plugins. So we can do a whole bunch of different, we already have 3 different plugins that allow you to do things like chargeback and whatnot, ways to easily get after different things that we're able to do in between release cycles and do things very simply. We're creating these with the help of customers, but the marketplace will allow you to add more to the core architecture. But then when we talk about the storage, our strategy is, or our vision is, you as an enterprise has multiple RAID stacks in your environment, and the world needs another RAID stack like a hole in the head. But you have more than one. Every OEM, IBM, EMC, NetApp has multiple RAID stacks. You don't want to do copy data management on one RAID stack, one environment. You want to do it across your environment. But also from a customer standpoint, they'll also try to have multiple vendors, or even if they're a single vendor, they'll have multiple RAID stacks in there. And they want it across their environment, because their copy data management challenge is not on one particular environment, it's across their environment. So our strategy to do exactly that. We are not going to build out what you already have. We're not going to do snapshots, replication, cloning. We're not going to add agent-based things to do things. What we are going to do is just do this actionable catalog to get you visibility of this, but also the orchestration across these environments. Where we are today is we do NetApp. The provider model, which will go through the architecture, allows us to use SMIS and public APIs to go, and you'll see in this calendar year, the next couple of quarters, this happens to be a certain order. But we're not announcing that today. But we'll go across all of them. And it's pretty straightforward to do it. Right now we only have 3 storage providers and 1 hypervisor GA. But I also already have it running in Amazon. It's not GA yet, but we did that port in 36 hours. So you'll see this go quickly. But our strategy is to go across. And what we'll say is there's other competitors that are basically saying, don't keep your copy management here. This is a problem. Move it to my box. Or my RAID array, or my software RAID array, but move it into my environment and I'll give you copy data management. I think we're just more aligned. It has to be simple, downloadable VM, it has to be extensible, but then it has to be across what you have in your environment, and it has to be across multiple RAID stacks. And that's where I think we're just different how we're deploying it compared to other people as far as
you've got TS7700 on there. Is that a mainframe solution as well as a virtual machine? I mean,
yeah. Okay. So on the graph, basically, what we're saying is everything. All these players have RAID stacks of their own, and they all do the advanced copy services piece. They all do things like clones and storage services like RAID, compression, dedupe tiering. They do snapshots. They do replication, and they have their own product names. But they all have complete solutions to do all the copy data management, snapping, application consistent snapshots, replication, backup. They all have them. In fact, they have typically more than one of them is the overall point. And what we're saying is the light green, we're not going to invest here. All of our intellectual property and all the patents are all about having a heterogeneous model that goes across other people's RAID stacks and give you visibility and orchestration of those copies. Make sense?
You didn't answer the question.
Okay, the question was, I'm sorry.
The question was, is this a mainframe solution as well as virtual machine solution or not?
Because
you've got TS7700 there, which is a mainframe only solution, and you're talking about copy management.
Yep.
And I'm trying to understand how the virtual machine is going to manage the TS7700, but I'll shut up at this point.
No, good question. So I think you caught me on a thing on the slide. So on the thing, we were just listing out all the different products. To be honest, this is not a mainframe solution. This works on open systems. No, good catch. I didn't mean to. Is an open system solution. It doesn't work on mainframe. And in fact, I don't think we have any. We just haven't considered it. I don't.
Considering your heritage, I thought maybe there might be something there, but that's all right.
So anyway, sorry about the. Any questions? That's all I had. I was going to go in demo. I think you guys will like the demo.
Yeah. So somebody just sent a question over Twitter about the workflow automation.
Sure.
They were wondering if you build your own custom ones, or if you guys provide templates that you can edit.
Let's do the demo.
Okay.
And we'll show you that. Because seeing's believing, right? Is that fair?
That's completely fair. We get somebody watching from home, so we'll get to see that now.
We don't know.
Or work, possibly.
What's that?
vCent 2.0. You know something we don't know?
Okay. Okay, well, the other thing I should say is most of these, a lot of this stuff we don't share without NDA, to be honest. So you'll see architecture, we'll do the demo. So yeah, we don't normally show these publicly. But I'll tell you, they're coming up on what they're doing in snapshots, right? So they did some acquisitions to do things. It's a very powerful platform coming forward.
And another question, also on the orchestration part. The orchestration is on your side, so in your software.
Yeah.
But can I use VRO also? So vRealize orchestration. Can I hook into ECX or?
We could, so the answer is right now there's no integration between those products and our products. Everything we use at GUI is by the API. Conceptually you can do it, but we don't have any integration in that case. I would say in that case we might be, it depends on the use case. But factually we don't support any integration like that now. Okay. So without further ado, let's go through the demo because I think you guys will like that.